Alrighty, everyone. Hello, hello. Welcome to the Designer's Den. I am super excited today to have on as my guest Jackson has done lots of cool things. We're gonna talk about one today that's a little bit related, that are a little, jumpy and in the shadows like now. But Jackson, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself a little bit. Tell everyone what you do in the tabletop and how you got started.
I think I got started like most how anybody got started is just like making character options for my players. Um,
Yeah.
I think what I'm most known for though is my stat blocks. I have several kaiju supplements up on the guild Titans of
Oh no.
Faerun and Titans of the Ancient World, which are these huge. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, you'd cut out for just a
What were you
second
saying?
there. Titans of. Sorry, can you repeat the two titles because you cut out in the middle of it?
Oh, sorry. Titans of the Ancient World and Titans of Faerun.
Okay. Yeah, I saw both of those. They look great.
Yeah, thank you. It's just like this. It's my love of Godzilla translated in D&D of these like giant monsters that like stomp around, throw things around and stuff, and there's like giant epic battles between them and between the players in them.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think that those are the two I'm most well known for. Although Once Bitten, the supplement we're going to talk about, is rapidly creeping up as like the one that I'm more prominently known for. And I love designing these like epic dynamic monster fights for players because as someone who has like ADHD, I think that having something that engages you in that level is really important for like a D&D session.
Ah,
No more of like the giants of like I swing my club
I
and
mean, okay though, there are giants that swing their clubs, but let's also go back and give some credit because in A Story of King Thunder Adventures, there are giants who throw goblins.
okay, that's pretty cool. I didn't know about that,
Yeah, they
but
are goblin huckers,
that's cool.
which it was like 8 months later before someone corrected me that they were not goblin shuckers.
Shuck, shucking goblins.
Yeah, just um, they've got their little backpacks full of goblins, I assume, and they just whoop, they're just chucking them over the walls of actually Bryn Shander, where I encountered them, but I have been told they are also in some of the other settlements that you can go to. The Storm King's Thunder, like, you get to go, and then you choose one of three settlements. Bryn Shander and other two places that aren't Bryn Shander. You know, the great thing
Yeah.
about depression, anxiety, and all of that jazz is that it really makes you like, yeah, those.
I mean, to be fair though, but like Faerunian city names are hard to remember anyway.
It's really weird, like what your brain chooses to remember. Like I was arguing with someone today. They're like, "Yeah, when I met you, college, you were at a party and you were wearing a little red dress," and I was like, "I absolutely was not. Pretty sure you were." I was like, "No, I had on a little plaid red skirt and a red tank top because I actually only owned one red dress in college, and it was a formal dress. So you're wrong." Like, wow, that was uh, an ungodly number of years ago that we won't talk about. How do you remember that? And I'm like, for whatever reason, I remember every single article of clothing I owned during college.
It's like when it's like 11:30 at night and you're standing in front of your microwaving a bowl of like Kraft macaroni and cheese, and you're like, for some reason, you're like, I'm going to remember this 10 years from now for some reason, and you do
Ah,
that. And
Golden Fields and Tribor. Those are the other two.
oh, okay, yeah, there we go.
Yeah. But anyways, you didn't want to have boring giants, and so you're like, you know what? Let's jazz it up. And then, once we've done that, add a little pizzazz.
Exactly. Yes. So like I love fights that change the scenery around you. So my biggest inspirations for specifically Titans of Faerun and Titans of Ancient World were like Dark Souls, of like how the fight with like the cursed Greatwood in Dark Souls 3 like changes like halfway through he like slams his butt on the ground and like breaks the floor and you fall through, and now there's like a whole different kind of boss fight you have to fight. it's just these dynamic scene changes that keep you engaged in the fight and keep you tactically thinking instead of just turning off your brain and going, I hit him with my sword, I hit him with my sword.
Yeah. Well, I'll have you know, Titans of Faerun is your fifth most popular, and Titans of the Ancient World is popular. You've got some others that have been creeping up there. Cursed Classes, even Cursier, is your second
Oh
most
yeah.
popular. Now,
Oh yeah, the
then we.
maze.
Mm-hmm.
That was my big break with them. If it was, I do not think I would be as successful in the TTRPG world if Isaac and Ashley did not give me a chance on that shot on that book, and I'm eternally grateful to them.
Isaac and Ashley are just such. I haven't had them on to talk yet because scheduling woes, time zones. Wow.
Right.
But just absolutely wonderful people. And then Allies, Enemies, and Quest, and then Across the Plains, the Feywild. But we're going to talk a little bit today about what is now your most popular product, Once Bitten, the Valium. And it's also one that you released fairly uh, recent. It's, you know, as in this year. You've only released two things since then. Monster Hunts Weekly. Well, that's this. Oh, unless you're not in every Monster Hunts Weekly. I'm like, we're skipping numbers. 23 and 26.
Yeah, I designed the stat blocks for the monsters in 23 and 26.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. I was
Yeah.
like, I know how to count, right? But Once Bitten, the Vampire Compendium was a product that you worked together with Cassandra McDonald, and it is a whopping 81 pages comprehensive guide to vampiric villains, NPCs, and monsters horror campaigns. Which, if you're watching this now, it is October. So, uh, buy it. It's time. The time is now. Run it. Use it. Add it to your game. Bring some horror. Which starts immediately before you even buy the thing. Page, the cover art. It's so evocative. Um, it is this bloodied hand in focus, leading back to like this, you know, black robed figure that is completely out of focus, their face or anything, and pointing at you, and you're just like, "Me? Are you gonna eat me next?" Ah. Um, but yeah. So you know, for people who haven't bought it yet, who are gonna be buying it, you know, now today after we talk about it, what exactly is the Vampire Medium Once Bitten?
So it actually spawned out of so so Cassandra and I have been friends since I think early 2020 or like mid to early 2020. And she invited me to play in her Vampire the Masquerade game. That was my first
Mm.
time ever playing a TTRPG other than D&D. Um, and I fell in love with like the universe, the lore, the like the bloodlines, and how like you know, it's like in stark contrast to D&D, no matter how powerful you get, there's always going to be somebody in the Masquerade who can come and just swat you like a fly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I was talking with Cassandra and I was like, it's a shame that like Strahd is such a wimp in Ravenloft.
It
Because
really is.
like I remember running Ravenloft for my group and Strahd giving this huge speech, you know, I am the land's yada yada. And then the paladin getting two crits in a row on him with the sun sword and just deleting him. And I was like, well, that was uneventful. That took about like 10 seconds.
Yeah, it doesn't really help that they give you all of Strahd's more as you go through the adventure, and so your villain fight becomes very animatic. Ugh.
Literally, it's like Strahd's like, oh, now we're finally face to face and fighting. And then you like pull out an AK-47 and he's like, holy shit, is that a gun?
I thought this was a knife fight, and I forgot my knife even. I was here for the fist fight, and you're like, but we brought magic.
Yeah, not magic and a bone from a priest.
Yeah.
Uh, so we were like, and then we looked at the actual vampire stat block other than Strahd, and we're like, it's really like bloated. They're trying to do too many things at once with the vampire. So what we decided to do is like break apart the vampire stat block and then break it up into I believe 5 different bloodlines, which each represent like an archetypical vampire that you see.
Okay.
The first is like the flesh warper, the Angelus is like the um the kind of vampire as the social predator of like preying on like people at parties, like decadent excess. The Dracul, which is like the tyrant, the person who like controls and dominates you and like leads armies of darkness and yada yada. The Grendel being like, go ahead.
No, I was trying to think of an example of that from pop culture. I'm not a big horror person. Problems with this, but like the person life is a part of everyone. That definitely makes me think like Anne Rice's, Interview with the Vampire Lestat.
Mhm.
Uh, like he was,
Or
ladies
I don't know
loved him.
if you've ever read the book that came out before Dracula called Carmilla,
Oh
which
yeah,
is about like that's the tip of the archetypical Angelus to me of like this like sapphic sort of like vampire that like seduces but then like also manipulates. Um and then Dracul is more like I think that's what Strahd is. It's like he wants like his whole thing is like control. He wants to control things. He wants to just shape the narrative how he wants and for it to go his way. Which is why he's so obsessed with what's her name? Arena? I believe her name is. I'm not entirely sure. But uh and then like the Grendel was actually based off, of course, the Grendel from Beowulf. So I always
yes,
imagined him as like a
I did like
vampire,
Beowulf. Yeah,
and it was just that unstoppable like faceless monster of like he like breaks into the Hrothgar's halls and then like they're like, oh, we got to kill him, but then they as they swing their swords they just like shatter against his skin and they're like, oh well, that's not good. And then there's the Hecaton, which is like the blood magic person, and then the Nosferatu, which is like the kind of like I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Descent. There's like these blind subterranean subspecies of humans that attack people.
yeah. I watched part of that. I thought back was tough, and
Was
then
it Tolstoy?
or were there two people? No, yeah. Strahd's been the master of Ravenloft for centuries now. He's taken consorts. None as beloved as Tess.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, um, but yeah, no, totally. Did not watch the entirety of The Descent. Started to watch it. Was in that period of my life when I was getting really bad, like hyper realistic games, and was like, this won't end well for me.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine.
Thanks, Alexa. You're great. Oh, but yeah, like that, just like creepy and comes out of yeah, like the what everyone thinks of. It's just like that disgusting type. I don't know, monstrous vampire. Definitely.
It's like a very real. So like I've heard it said that like horror, the encapsulated like thought of horror is like, what if a really fucked up dude looks at you, which like is like translated to be like a lot of the time you are the object of, or a lot of the time like you have an object of obsession in
Hmm.
your life, whether it be like a healthy obsession or like a a not so healthy obsession, but like horror is you are the object of obsession
Hmm.
and it makes you uncomfortable. And I think the Nosferatu embodies that kind of like animalistic obsession of like you are the prey in this situation. Like you are not. We've been so used to being like the apex predator, so to speak, on Earth that like we fear like becoming a prey again.
Yeah, and that's I mean, and Nosferatu, of course, being a very you know, uh prominent figure himself in literature, like definitely that like lecherous like makes you feel like you're in danger being in their presence. Like you just feel like I don't know, h- helpless at some points, and at other points just like completely disgusted and grossed out. Like wow, he really just went there.
Right.
But definitely is like like that typical like gory vampire. What I think of as because like the original like curse where like he always went just too far. But
Right.
I think that like, you've done a great job kind of going through these different ones and got a chapter on each of them. So, not gimpy material, for people who want to know more about like how to represent the types of vampire. Like you've kind of, given them a lot to work with. One thing that you didn't have, um, which obviously you add it, was those examples from literature because that's a thing, literature and pop culture. That is a thing that, people are more familiar with those representations and like oh, like this guy. That was one thing that I would have liked. But that's just a personal preference. Obviously, like you also, have on the flip side, like if you put that in there, somebody leaning too heavily into a caricature, like from a film, and you're like, that's not really the but um, my favorite of all of them, of course, is the Angelus because like don't ex- and like that's their power, right? They have that brawl kind of like over you, and you're just like, yeah, no, whatever you kill my friends, bring them to you so you can drink them. I don't I don't see a problem with that. And
It's
like,
like it and it does we do such a good because like Cassandra was the one who wrote the Angelus and then I wrote the Dracul. They both are like kind of charms. They both have like this powerful charm ability.
mhm.
And I love the juxtaposition of the two of like the Angelus is like almost like a siren, like lulling you into this false sense of security because of its beauty. Um, kind of like this like an anglerfish or something.
And,
And the Dracul just like it's just like the hammer of like domination on you. It's just like he's like you're going to listen to me whether you like it or not, and I don't care that you know that I'm charming you.
I really love, I really dug the first Angelus NPC that was provided here by Cassandra, the Tali de la human fledgling Angelus. And in life she was an opera singer of great renown and skill. Um, Obviously, like, her beauty and skill caught the eye of a vampire. And he, eventually turned her, hoping to preserve her beauty and art. And, that changed her a little bit. But, she eventually kind of got back to her love of all of that and likes to think that she's like this moral person, but yet, is still siring new vampires. So that moral quandary of like thinks she's all good and everything, but like, is there such good taking away
And,
people's current life? Like, is that like even a thing? I guess it
and
depends.
it's
It's a matter of opinion.
right. Yeah, it's like how can something that is in its nature inherently revolves around like the murder of another sentient being be good? And I think that's like a thing that like a good question that Cassandra asked with that NPC
Hmm.
is like is like I mean, is it possible? And I love how she leaves it open ended.
Yeah, definitely does. Like, and that's definitely something that you can paint like, a very evocative story for your players there, where it's not just like, you know, Strad's been moping about in his castle. He really misses Tatiana. And so he's been an absolute jack off to all of these people here in Barovia. Uh, then you have the Dracul, and it was the Lord Tyr, the oldest and chieftest of the Gilded Hall, who's a high elf mature Dracul that I really like there because like something like a corrupt and dishonest businessman. Yeah, yeah, we got a bad guy. All right, we've started off on the right foot. And holds the economy of the Gilded Hall, collections villages, and a chokehold. You know, um, and you're like, oh gosh, oh, I don't realize that like like you say here, some say it's like he could control minds. You know, like exactly like that. And and his personality trait was just, I mean, irreparably lazy and will do anything to get out of any sort. And I'm like, yeah, that's like the classic, like, you know, rich guy, bad guy. It's just like, I'm willing to kill people and mind control people and like literally like there's no bad thing I will not do. Get right back into the moral thing. Like, you know, some people might argue that like, he's I mean, who doesn't want to be successful? Right, but like murder, mind control, oh, you take away someone's agency. Like, I think it's commonly agreed that those are bad. And so you've really kind of like, hit on like it- like why, like such a popular thing. Oh, like the Lord, oh, might be a vampire. Why do you think that? Everyone, it doesn't make any sense.
Everybody hates him for some reason. We haven't like stormed the castle and like guillotined them or whatever. He's
We
just like
we keep thinking about it, and then we even plan it, and then we just like don't.
right, and it's like, and one thing that I wanted to include when writing the Dracul is saying like because the Dracul leans like it leans so much into like the this thing is like because they only choose from like noble stock to turn.
Hmm.
It leans so much into this like biological determinism that I wanted to put in one of the NPCs somebody that is like, despite being of noble stock and despite having that upbringing and stuff like that, when they returned, they became a good person, and that's like the Carvor Treestone, the human fledgling Dracul, which
Hmm.
is like really good contrast to Lord Tyr because he's like he was turned and then he said, I'm not going to be like I'm not going to be the person everybody wants me to be. I'm going to be I want to have like justice and equity for all.
Well,
And he uses these like abilities to be good.
and he had a really interesting kind of like upbringing though, because he's a king in exile. He is of noble birth, but like he wasn't raised as noble, right? So like knowing that like he should have had all of these things and yet had to live like, the rest of the riffraff, like really lets him kind of left this bitterness and resentment in him that like, fuck the nobility. Like why do they deserve, to profit from the fruits of our labor? Like why I wouldn't have done anything. I literally would have just born. He's just born. And so it's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna very very Robin Hood thing, except like his goal is to like I'm just gonna kill all the vampires because like they yeah.
Well, it's like to him, it's like the it's a systemic problem that he can solve with violence, which is like his flaw. And like his thing is he's so hot headed. He's like it's this huge, great systemic problem that he's like, all right, I'm the only thing I'm really good at is just like smashing stuff. So what can I smash to make this problem better? And he sees the Dracul bloodline, which are evil vampires that are easy, at least for him to kill. Um, that is
They have
that he's like
helpfully equipped him with the tools that he needs.
exactly, yeah, precisely. And he's like, well, I don't see how that I can't possibly see how this would go wrong. Uh,
Right?
trying to eradicate all the vampires.
Yeah, and I think it's really, kind of um the Grendel I thought were kind of interesting in that, they tend to kind of have kind of this like relationship with giants and other things where, typically you think, when you have vampires in the society, it's kind of like a strange partnership because they become like these roots, they gain this massive strength. And like giants like, yeah man, you hit hard. I like that. And like, obviously like not all giants are gonna be like, yeah, I'm cool with this killer living with me. But like you get that subsection of giant culture that's also raging asshole. And like it's just like, kind of the worst partnership for the rest of civilization. Like,
Right, exactly. And I think it's really interesting because like a bunch of the giants who like rely on like pillaging to like make a living essentially, they find a Grendel inside of a castle or a fortress and they're like, oh, this dude literally doesn't give a shit about any of like the weapons or armor or any of the valuables that are on the adventurers he kills. He just wants to eat them. And he just discards rest. He's like, we could just keep this place tidy for him, keep it cleaned up. We get all the stuff from it.
and you don't want to
And it's
send like super strong fighters after him because like you might just have given him a new friend.
right, exactly, yeah.
Like, you're strong, I'll turn you.
And no, it's either that, it's either you're strong or I'll turn you, or you're strong, you make a good meal.
Yeah, that too. That too. And it's really just like, if it's a lose-lose situation if you're not certain of, the outcome. If you're not certain that you're going to win, it's a better proposition. Like, that's just. But, overall, it's an excellent supplement. And, not only is like the content good and very well thought out, but like it's frankly it's beautiful. Like the layout is gorgeous, the artwork is chosen and really complements the imagery with the picture. Um and and of course you have some commentary, which is always my favorite thing books nowadays. Um Side commentary. Like one here, we have a comment from Dimitri the One-Armed, a Dracul elder. Note, all Dracul, do not attempt to charm a Grendel. Although they seem like the perfect shock trooper for your army, and they seem like brutes and simpletons, they are immune to our psychic influence. If you need further clarification, please come and ask me how I found this out.
That is my favorite note that I put in the book. That is like, it just perfectly encapsulates the relationship that uh, both the Grendels and the Dracul have to power. Of like, the Dracul is like, I show power by you're mine now, like you're my servant, and the Grendel is like, I will show my power by ripping your arm off if you tell me what to do.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And um, and so you briefly mentioned the Mays earlier, Ashley and Isaac, and it looks like Ashley actually worked on the layout on this, which all the compliments I just gave to the wonderful layout totally makes sense. And then Isaac had a hand in the editing on here, so absolutely wonderful team that you put together on this, and of course the InDesign layout by Nathaniel, which if you want to learn InDesign, pick it up on DM Skill. It's cheap. It'll get you started. Um, but of course, you still have to pay for InDesign. So
Yeah, payoff.
do what you will.
Right.
But yeah, absolutely beautiful. And this is just one of many things you have. You have 36 products available on the DM's Guild, and another 2 author credits over on the Drive-Thru RPG for Supers and Sorceries 5e campaign setting, and Primal 5e, a prehistoric campaign primer. And first one was Daylight Public Cameron Day. Second one was with Compass Publishing House. Is uh, uh Com-
That's Eleanor's publishing company that she started. It was supposed to be like a co-op publishing company, I
okay,
think.
okay, that makes so much. Um, yeah. So yeah, you worked on that one. Author credits for you, Lydia Van Hoy, and then R.F. Jordan there, and of course, beautiful artwork in that one. From Kat Evans. I recognized that. Right off the bat. So you've done a wide variety of things. You got some campaign settings. You've got stat blocks, which is your your baby. You love it. Um, but a lot of NPCs going on, and archetypes and stuff. Obviously, you've got a know, uh favor mechanical stuff over like the narrative stuff,
Yeah.
adventures and whatnot. But you've well with that. Aside from as we mentioned before, like your love of kaiju, everything. Like where all your in when you're like, gosh, I should start a new project. I've got a blank Word document. Um, you know, where do you
I
start? Do you open up your favorite novels, roll back through your back catalog on Netflix?
I think it's a little combination of everything. My I think the most inspiration I've ever gotten for a product has been spite, of course, of somebody saying you can't do that. My favorite product I've ever released has been the Consort, which was I said something to one of my players back when I used to DM at the Adventures League at one of the game shops. Um, Said like I was just making a joke. I said like all my NPCs are gay unless stated otherwise, because I would be hard pressed to include someone that's heterosexual in one of my adventures. And someone was like, "You're making this game way too gay," and I was like, "I'll show you way too gay." And I made the Consort, which is all about like you're so gay for a fae, an archfey, that it has given you superpowers. Um, and I think like that kind of stuff drives you the most. I think creatively, I love novels, any kind of horror novels or monster novels I can get my hands on. Um,
Spite, and I imagine the Twitter ship excellent
yes,
inspiration.
exactly. Um, I no, that's not even joking. Primal was written because I was like, I wonder which dinosaur would make the coolest like D&D mount. And then like
All right.
I got a bunch of responses from people, and then
What was the
I messaged Lydia.
consensus? Surely it wasn't T-Rex. That's
No,
boring,
because
overplayed.
it's boring, contrite, overplayed. Uh, but the coolest I think would be Spinosaurus, because it's my favorite dinosaur. Um, but like everyone said the Carnotaurus, because it's like it is the size of a horse. It does have a very strong back because it had to have a strong back in order to like ram its prey at 40 miles an hour.
Hmm.
Um, so like everybody's saying like Carnotaurus is like the coolest or like it would be the best mount for D&D.
I'm a big fan of the Apatosaurus, or for people who aren't as up on dinosaurs, maybe think of
Oh, well,
because
go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to
yeah,
interrupt you.
not only can you write it, but as you're writing it, if there is still something for you to read. As someone who can't reach the top shelf, I find it very handy to have a mount. Similarly, a giraffe would be my sister.
Yeah.
That's my sister's favorite. But anyways, I said Brontosaurus.
Well, I am very tapped into the paleontology world. I'm going back next year to
Oh,
get my degree in paleontology.
oh, yeah, it was a big debate for a while.
Yeah, and they found out recently that like Apatosaurus and Brontosaurus are two separate species.
I know. It was because they have well, don't call it Apatosaurus either. They have a lot at the field. I forget now in Chicago.
Oh, the Field Museum. Oh gosh,
Tit-
it's not Titanosaurus.
yeah,
It's
no, it is. It is. It is.
it is it is.
Yeah. Thank you. Titanosaur. I was like, it's something. It's something that sounds like it should be made up. Um, but I was always like when I went there, like, gosh, uh, that looks like Brontosaurus, and that was what got me into learning more about the dinosaur. Genie, like, what are the ancestors of the ancestors? Yeah, it's Maximo.
Oh yeah, yeah,
The Titanosaur. They also have Sue, the
yeah.
T-Rex. Sue is well, actually my second favorite because I like Maximo better. Because Land Before Time was my jam growing up, and um, I have a soft spot for oh, Littlefoot, but Petrie. Okay, Petrie is my favorite. Tree stars. But anyways, yeah, they did. They recently, kind of walked it back on Brontosaurus not being a thing that exists because all Brontosaurus, Apatosaurus up and we made a mistake and we're calling it, we made a mistake. And now they're like, well, we made a mistake when we said we made a mistake.
Literally, it's so much of dinosaurs that we know about has been either competition between two old white men who in a competition to be like the paleontologist, they have just like completely messed up our nomenclature of all these dinosaurs. A couple of years ago, they came out with the Nanotyrannus, which is like supposedly like a very small T-Rex species. Turns out it's not a small T-Rex species; it's just a baby T-Rex.
Yeah, I was gonna
Skeleton.
say small T-Rex. You mean like a child? Yeah, it was actually longer ago than I thought because I've just looked this up now. Scientific American. It was in 2015 when they reversed course. The article is titled "The Brontosaurus is Back." Decades after scientists decided that the famed dinosaur never actually existed, research said the opposite. Scientists were like, "You know what? We were wrong. It's fine."
They were like, our bad, our bad. That's on us.
But that's how science works. But I always
Right.
loved Brontosaurus because those of you who don't know, Brontosaurus, I mean the thunder lizard. Why? Doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter. Because their footsteps are. But anyways, the thunder lizard, and they've got this, long, lean form and square box, so like all my arms are cut off and you can't see it. But I'm stretching them way out, everybody. But yeah, beautiful, majestic. Turns out the original Apatosaurus, Brontosaurus fossils appeared different enough after. Yeah. Uh, so, um, yeah. And that's like having that weird off the wall like discussion on what would be coolest to ride. So first off, if you had that on Twitter, you were relying on everyone's knowledge of dinosaurs. That skewed your poll a little bit.
Right.
So what was the I guess the crowd favorite aside from yours? That
Uh,
was in the
it was Carnotaurus, which is like I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Dinosaur, the CGI one.
ah.
Okay. uh, that's like the big meat eater. That's the Carnotaurus in that one.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
and they
Carnotaurus is for everyone who doesn't really know. You might originally just think it's T-Rex. It's not. It has even stumpier arms. Like they look like little nubbins. And yeah, chomp chomp, and they run super, super fast. Allegedly,
allegedly they
we've never
like
seen one, so we don't know.
right yet. We haven't seen one yet.
We are not doing. We do not need to do Jurassic World up in this. We have enough going on right now. Okay.
The Carnotaurus, speaking of Jurassic World, actually holds my favorite moment in the Jurassic Park series is in 3 when they're digging out they're going into the Spinosaurus poop to grab the radio phone. They're like digging through it and stuff, and the Carnotaurus like peeks out his head from behind like the woods and like looks at him, and they all like get out and they're like covered in like shit, and then the Carnotaurus just goes like and just like goes back and walks away.
Like, no, thank you.
Right.
That was a great scene. Also pictured in Jurassic World Fallen King? Fallen Kingdom. With the, the ferocious roar in many of the posters. Yeah. You can get the T-Rex in Carnotaurus, apparently figures at 1/15th scale. That seems pretty large.
Yeah.
From Prime Studio One. All right. Uh, yeah. Uh, that would be a pretty cool one. It's got a nice, silhouette, so you could get a saddle on there. Um, it's used to having to bend down to pick things up off the ground because it doesn't have any arms, so like mounting should be fairly straightforward. I think that's, overall it's a great choice. If you want a fast mount.
Right.
I feel like with my choice, I'm more like, we're not going anywhere fast, but I don't have to pack light. I just take Brontosaurus. Um, yeah, Potosaurus is more of like a pack mount. Sorry, you beast. But
Uh, Back when I was in college, I actually published a short story about like, what if humanity still had dinosaurs around, and like we didn't have gunpowder or electricity or anything, so we had to like live in kind of like almost like a modern but also medieval existence with dinosaurs. And
so like Chult,
they were like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So like
but less racist.
they, yes, way less racist. And the there were like several clans, and each clan specialized in a type of dinosaur they rode. And one of the clans was like the Brontosaurus clan, and they had and when they went into a fight, they had like ballistas mounted to like the Brontosaurus's back, but they also had these special saddles that had like almost like a retractable leash on it, so they could jump down onto somebody else's dinosaur while still attached to the Brontosaurus. And then when they'd fight him, whatever, and if they need to go back, they'd pull a string and it would like reel them back into the saddle. And that was all that always struck me as like so cool and like such a practical way to bring like something so big, like as big as the Brontosaurus, into a fight. Although I don't think everybody would want to bring a Brontosaurus into a fight, given how like gentle they are.
No, but let's see if I can. You can't see it, of course. So let me link this to real quick so you could see what I'm talking about as well. I have 8 million things on my desk. Ah, all right. So one of the reasons. All right, now we'll put it up. One of the reasons why I considered going back to World of Warcraft for the Battle for Azeroth was that it had a Brutosaur dinosaur mount, which I have displayed here. The model of that front view, side view, slightly less slide back view, and like look at the fancy saddle and everything. So
So,
cute.
I was gonna say that is so cute. Oh my gosh.
And I really considered like how much like do I really, and finally was like, what I want. Um. So actually, they had I'm not gonna pull them all up now. If anybody else is interested, you can Google all of the Battle for Azeroth dinosaur mounts. They had a bunch of really cool packs, I'm sure later because they have raptor mounts and like of course it's WoW, so they all have WoW armor on them. Like these dinosaurs like decked out in like outrageous armor, and oh, they had my number. It was close. It was close. If I hadn't had like way too much on my calendar, I would have bought it. Um, I just had my friends screenshots. You got them out? Show me, show me, show me, show me. uh, but I think that honestly, like going really far back in history, even like history before it's actually recorded, is like an excellent source of inspiration for like so many people. Like, you know, dinosaurs. Like, what was life like in pre times? Like, what did people like going way back before medieval times? Like, what did people, creatures, plants, animals, like what was it like then? And like how can we take things from that and shove it into, our typical high fantasy or, Eberron steampunk noir or whatever it is, and like take the cool things and add them to the other cool things and be like, guess what? Um, and it always makes it really interesting to just kind of like mash things up like that because like, okay, cool, I brought in something. Someone's like, it looks like a T-Rex. Yeah, no, it's great that you think that. First off, how does anybody know what a T-Rex does? So good luck metagaming me here, players. Second off, it's not a T-Rex anyways, so good luck metagaming me here, players. As in Chult, it could be a dinosaur that opens its mouth and sprays zombies everywhere. That was a thing.
Right, yeah.
I remember reading that and I was like, I don't know who.
Yeah.
Like you, yes, um, good people. But yeah. So, no monsters. Let's go back. Never. Like what other like I don't know mythological
I think way more, I think a lot of times, uh, people spend a lot of time humanizing monsters, which I'm not really okay, this is gonna sound hold on, let me defend this.
Let's not anthropomorphize all of them.
Yeah, no, like totally. Because like I love Uncaged. It's my favorite DM School product of all time. I love the Three Flings stream that Jess does that when they're like going through Uncaged. Um, but I think that there are some monsters that work better when they are just like monsters. Like let them be monsters. Uh, I think Grendel is a good example of someone who he doesn't have a tragic backstory. He wasn't wronged by anyone. He's just kind of like an asshole, and he just does that stuff for fun and because he can. And I think that's a good reflection on like current day society is like sometimes the person or the villain or whatever isn't really like he doesn't have a tragic backstory. He's not like his parents weren't mean to him. He's just an asshole and he's just taking advantage of people because he can.
Not looking for redemption at
Yeah,
all.
exactly.
Doesn't want it. You offer it to him and he's like, why?
Exactly. I think that's why I loved Thanos so much in the MCU is because like all the time the MCU spends so much time being like, this guy was he's a bad guy, but Tony Stark was like spilled coffee on him one time, and now he's like the Vulture or something, and then like Thanos is just like, I'm just a bad guy, like I just want to kill these people. He's like, and I have the barest excuse to do it.
Yeah, I was gonna say like he technically has like an excuse that he's using, like population, resources. And you're like, but like galaxy and as we've gotten into now, multiverse, like our problem. You just want to be like, guess what I can do? Y'all did.
It's like such a flimsy excuse, and I love how they never have any of the characters who don't put up with bullshit like Falcon or Bucky or anyone interact with Thanos, because if they were they would just be like, you're obviously just a psychopath. Like you have infinite power, you could double the resources if you wanted to, but you want to kill these people because you're a psychopath.
And that's exactly what shows it. Is like, you've got them. You've got all of them. You can literally do anything now. If your problem that there's a lack of something. Guess what? Now there's not. Um, but you've already shown. When they had when they had the flashback to his daughter, like you did this, but like what did it cost you? Everything. But yet, did that change like what he did? No. Was he sad about it? No. It cost me everything, and that's what it cost.
They go to so great pains to like where he goes to such great pains to paint himself as like a noble demon, as like somebody's like, I'm doing this because I care about the universe, but like any form of scrutiny, his plan does not stand up to it. And and I wish like the person who is most known for being a smart aleck in the MCU, Tony Stark, would have had some sort of conversation with them along those lines. But the Russo brothers are cowards, I guess.
God, I really, I would have talked to him. Like, really? That's what we're
Like this,
that's what we're going with.
I wanted so much more of Bucky in the MCU, and it's sad that him and Steve aren't going to be interacting. Spoiler alert: him and Steve aren't going to be interacting anymore in the MCU because they've are like the OTP of the uh, Marvel universe.
Like their chemistry was good, and that's still fairly recent, so we will not go into. Give it the what is it the year or whatever, when we just
Okay.
go throwing out the whole plot line of it. But I will say, you know, um, not necessarily related directly to that, but like related to like bad guys at large and like Marvel Universe specifically, they so often like paint like the villains, and that's like a D&D thing too, as like God, they're such a bad guy, but you're like, but wait a minute, actually, like I kind of agree with their cause, right? Like, um, I mean, we can use Killmonger. That's been out long enough here. Like, he just, he had a horrid life. Kind of wants to get back in with this community that he was never connected with. Take some of the resources that they have and use them to better like other people's life. And you're like, what's so bad about that? And then he just starts like killing people. And you're like, oh,
And that's like the thing about Killmonger is like objectively he was right. Like he was in the right, and
the
T'Challa was
the
like
the the end goal, yeah, the means that he went about. I mean, literally, like, had he done like a little bit more like diplomacy, everyone could have been fine. Instead, it was just like, yeah, we're not really gonna talk about this, um, but I'm angry and I want some abs. I'm just gonna like take it, even though like had I been like, yo, let me show you all this suffering happening.
literally like and well it's like it makes sense in a certain viewpoint because like I don't know if you've ever read The Wretched of the Earth by Frantz Fanon. Um but he talked about he lived in Algeria when it was ruled by France. Um when it was like colonized by France rather. Um he talked about like the French people, they like put down Algerians. They said they were savages, they were monsters, they were whatever. And he's
Okay, so
like,
any country that the English colonized, pretty much.
exactly, yeah. Just colonization in general. That's
Yeah.
like the modus operandi of colonization. But Franz is like, when you treat people a certain way and you call them certain things, eventually they're going to start acting like that.
Mhm.
And so because he was talking specifically about people who have gotten tired of the French, like talking to them about that and calling them this and treating them like that. And they were like, we're about to show you how nasty we can be. They started killing French people. That's when the armed resistances sprung up in Algeria during French colonization. And he was like, these people are tired of being like having their culture erased and uh, having everything stolen from them. And you've treated them like a monster. Now they're going to act monstrous.
I mean, and it often is rather a self-fulfilling prophecy, both in real life and in fiction. Like, I mean, you constantly tell them that they're awful, and you don't really give them any chance to do anything else than like, you know, what are you expecting from people? Like, what are you hoping for here? You're awful. You're whatever. We stomp on you, and all you want to do is kill us with every passing day. Yes, that urge, it grows. Like, all the people of Barovia, I'm sure, didn't start out hating Strahd like he was their benevolent, lord for some time. And then like he just went off. And all of a sudden they were like, "Well, yeah, this guy." And and then he just started staying in his castle and they were like, "We're okay with that." But how do we guarantee that he won't come back out of his castle? We could still kill
Exactly. Yeah.
him. We could still kill him. That's an option. Yeah, that's an option. Or encourage these adventurers who have conveniently just shown up.
Exactly. Like, let's give guns to the adventurers so they can go kill Strahd.
Kill the beast. Definitely makes me, yeah, Beauty and the Beast. Like, he's a charming gentleman. Like, obviously, like was, whatever. And then like he only gets savage and starts attacking them when they come to kill him. Like so many of these allegories. Yep. Yeah, you're making a villain. Doing it. Great job. Not really like a bad guy though. Villainizing. Which
Right.
is actually an important distinction between like villain and a monster.
It's
Because
like,
one can be both, but not necessarily.
yeah, you can be monstrous without being villainous, and you can be villainous without being monstrous.
Yeah. And like you said, like the Grendel, both, arguably, definitely both. But not all of the vampires have to be villains. They are monsters kind of by default because like their means of existence survival depends upon them killing people, which is monstrous. But
I wrote an essay in college for my like graduate thesis for writing, and it was all about how like in modern times we have like misconstrued being monstrous as being villainous,
mhm.
when in fact whenever you see a monster in uh either Greek mythology, Norse mythology, or even like contemporary like 1800s 1900s literature, they're the defining trait of a monster in those works aren't evil, it's power. They're powerful enough to be free agents, to like shun the social order and like determine their own path. And I think that's like what a lot of people like, why a lot of people like them is like, and like why a lot of heroes at the time whose defining power or whose defining trait was that they were powerful enough as well to shuck off the natural order. I mean, like, because that's what hero meant in Greek mythology, is someone who doesn't really anybody who's particularly heroic. If you look in the actual mythology, like Hercules was kind of a dick, and so was like Theseus and Perseus. They were it was enough power to do what you wanted and not get stopped by anybody.
Yeah, and then like so it's the same. I don't know if it's like the example here, but I don't know why this made me think of like the Edgar Allan Poe, The Cask of Amontillado, but like you know definitely a bit like he sets out with the intention, like I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get this guy, and like yeah, like at the beginning it sets it up the whole thing like, gosh, you know, Fortunato, he has wronged me. He's prided himself. He's prideful, boastful, this and that. Okay, sure, but like, does that mean he deserves to be? Who here, um, you know, is the monster? Is it Fortunato, or or
The psychopath uh,
yeah,
boarding him up in the wall.
yeah, and the psychopath boarding him up in the wall. Um, Arguably, psychopath boarding him up in the wall. Oh, else hastened to make an end of my labor. I like at the end though he realizes that like, mm, probably was. Oh well.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, I gotta hurry up and finish this. This was a bad idea. Bad idea.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like, hmm. But it really goes to show you like what a portrayal of what the opinions of like they're like as they're set forth, what the different portrayals of someone make them out to be, because like set it up like this guy, he's like at the beginning it starts in with like Al Fortunato was just like this raging asshole, and you're like, oh god, no, yeah, you should be mad at him, lure him here, and you're false pretense his wine, you're gonna poison him a little bit. I mean, and that's bad.
You're gonna get him.
that's bad too, right? You know. But then you're like, you're
When I first read that short story in 8th grade, when he was like, "I'm going to get him back" or whatever, I was like, "Oh, so he's going to get him drunk off of the Amontillado and embarrass him." I was like, "Cool, that's like proportionate revenge." And he's like, "Then I handcuffed him to the wall." And I was like, "Oh, hold up,
you're like,
hold up."
yeah, yeah. And in here, the whole thing, you get them a little drunk, and they're arguing about, Lucchese, who doesn't understand a good wine. You're like, you know, all like, yeah, we agree. And then he's like, you die. Hey, gonna go kill Lucchese next? Did somebody send him a note? Yes. Anyway, we could go on, at length about various literature and villains and representation thereof. Um, but we have actually reached the end of our time. Uh, it's been delightful. Thank you so much for being on the show, Jackson. This was a real thrill. Um, do you have any upcoming or, as of now, I guess ongoing projects that you want to everyone? If not, where can they find you online? Find your stuff. I don't know if you are available to play games with. If that's not, yeah, like
I think by the time this comes out, well, I know by the time this comes out, Cryptids Inc., my 5e modern Kickstarter, will be out on Drive Through RPG. So everybody go and pick that up. Um,
Kickstarter funded, and it was great. It was wonderful.
yes, and we have an adventure written by Oliver Darkshire in the book as well, and all kinds
I
of
love
cool.
Oliver.
He's the best. And that's going to be out, so everybody go buy that, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And I think by
More monsters,
there's
cryptids.
yes, exactly.
Just
Um,
Halloweenish.
Hello, yeah, exactly. It's the perfect Halloween companion, Cryptids Inc. Um, and I don't think anything else of mine will be out yet, but everybody also go follow me on Twitter because I have been trying for the past 6 months to get past 500 followers. Um, and boy, oh boy, am I close. I'm at 483, I think, right now.
482.
42. Oh no, somebody somebody unfollowed me. And you can a lot of cool things I post on there, mainly about how I'm 90% sure I could beat a kangaroo in a fist fight.
And as it's October, be airing, it'll still be October. While you're on Twitter, follow all of the Intricasso.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I changed mine to was it James Mothman Tricasso.
I love it. This has been a delight. This recently started. I am James Intricasso. The extra cherry. Just want everyone to do so good. Version of that doesn't exist. That's a different version.
I loved Laura's
Dame.
uh
Dame
yeah.
Intricasso. I was like, oh, that's good. There have been some great ones. If by this point in time you have not seen all the excellent iterations of Intricasso on Twitter, and just back through James's feed, he's been chronicling. This is delightful. This is the best.
Did you see Matthew Mercer even got in on it?
No, I'm gonna look at it now. That is an honor. I guess I should probably type first name first. I apparently don't know the Omega Intricasso. Oh, I apparently don't follow Matt Mercer. Whoops. I don't need to. Everyone always retweets everything.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I follow him now. It's fine. But yeah. Oh, that's great. He even changed his profile picture to James's face. James, this is your year. It's the summer of Abria, but it's the fall, James.
Avenger also.
That sounds ominous.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. Definitely follow Jackson on Twitter. Look up the Games Guild. Is linked in your profile, so you can get all your products there. That doesn't link you to Drive Through RPG when you go You could just put in the name, and it'll pull right up. That's what I did. And yeah, don't really do online. It's
I
fine.
barely like people as it is, much less people online.
Ah, you know what? I found that they're actually delightful because, like, just want to play D&D, okay? They've gone to all the trouble to figure out how to do the Discord and do the thing, and like I've never done all. Can we play? It's like play D&D today?
Oh yeah, I don't can't remember the kid's name, but I remember that moment. I'm like, that's a mood.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyways, and as always, everyone, you can find me on all the social medias at Jenny Loveday or over at my website, jennyloveday.com, where you can keep up with all of my guests that I've ever had on the show and all of their links to stuff. Not all of their, get you to all of their. Um, and check out all of these super cool people that I've had on. I do not have my guest list yet finalized for November. By the time this airs, I will have had my guest list finalized or something's gone terribly wrong. But I've got a bunch of great people that I have emailed. So small creators, indie creators, some more indie people, of course. So that and yeah, I guess that's gonna be Jackson. Oh, this has been great. All right, everyone.
Thank you for having me.
Until next time.